ZeroTakes channel. Today we are going to be looking at some of the very most popular theories for Stranger Things Season 5 for the last 4 episodes in this season. Sorry for the long break. We're back talking about Stranger Things. And let's just kick right off. Now, these don't have titles. I'll explain what they are as I go throughout the video. First and foremost, this right here, we're going to start with Vecna will eventually turn or become good. There's been a lot of speculation that, or a very popular theory, that toward the end, Vecna will kind of flip his allegiance and kind of become good. A lot of theory is that the Mind Flayer is more in control than people believe, and that Vecna will, well, not Vecna, but Henry Creel will kind of come back and fight off who we now know as Vecna and kind of start helping the good guys. Now, I think that at this point it's a little likely, and I think it's a little more likely than not with how we've kind of seen the story progress and what we've seen in the trailers and kind of how the story is shown. With like the Wrinkle in Time thing, I really do think time travel will be a big part. I'm not even going to put time travel on this tier list just because I think it's so likely. If I did, time travel would be 100%. It's going to happen. And I think when that happens, I think that we will see Henry Creel again, and he will more likely than not here end up becoming good. Now this next one, I call it the spyglass. This is just a little tiny theory. Some of these will be huge series defining theories. Some of these will be small little details that may change the story or impact the story. This one is something I picked up on while watching, I don't remember if it was episode 3 or 4, but I'm pretty sure it was episode 3, but when Holly is in that mindscape and runs into Max, she drops her spyglass, and this theory is called the spyglass. And with the spyglass, we never see her pick it up, and she kind of leaves it behind. Now, I think that when we get to that episode, Escape from Kamzat's, that this spyglass will be a big part in their story and their plot line, Max and Holly's. And I think it'll cause a lot of like turmoil and be like basically what I described it as was like the Chekhov's gun in my last video, where like the mindscape Vecna will find this spyglass, and that's how he will know that something's wrong with Holly, even though she's playing it off like she didn't meet Max in the cave. So I think that for me, this is 100% happening. I think that this is how their plan is going to go awry, and how Vecna will figure out that Holly has, left the house, has gone into the woods against Mr. What's-Its advice. Now here's this next one that I just absolutely hate, and that's that Karen is related to Vecna. I'm throwing that at 0. Some people think that, Karen Wheeler might be Vecna's or Henry Creel's sister, and she survived and all that, and it's just not happening. That's not the way the story's going. Sorry for those of you who may believe that's what is happening, but I give it a 0% chance. Next, this one is the shock jock, and it's a different theory than what you think. Like, most people think shock jock, this means that one of Steve or Robin are going to die in this. Now, I don't think Robin's going to die at all, and there's still a chance for Steve to die. In the trailer, we get Dustin and Steve saying that line again of, if you die, I die. That kind of makes me think that neither of them will. But for this theory, I've seen it a little bit like circulating on TikTok and stuff like that, where this might be the flashback episode where we get a little more detail about what happened when Henry Creel was younger in high school, and kind of more background, more detail on that whole storyline. And it might be referencing Bob, who we know is dead, but back in the day, he also had like a radio show, and it could be referencing, you know, Vecna's struggle back in the day. And I think that there's a pretty 50-50% chance on this. Like, I could definitely see this being the flashback episode, or the one with a lot of uh, like past plot relevance. Um, there's still a chance that it revolves around Steve or Robin, but I really think that there's a decent chance. I'm actually going to move this up into more likely than into more likely than not. I think there's a very good chance that this is the flashback, and this isn't about Steve or Robin dying, and this is more about the importance back in the day, back in the 50s, when Henry Creel was younger, or when he was in high school with, you know, Joyce and Hopper and Bob and Patty Newby, who we kind of know from the play, and what I'm assuming we'll get more information on in the series in this episode. All right, this next theory, this one right here, is that Will created the Upside Down. It's not that he like fully creates it, but he's more like the artist who depicts it. He's the artist who puts the ideas to life, brings the ideas to life. And I think that's going to be true. I think that's going to be 100%, just because the Upside Down is stuck on the day that Will has been taken into it, like back in season 1. It's frozen in time at that exact moment. It just makes me think that Will is kind of like the creator, or like I said, like the artist behind the Upside Down. Like, he's the one who used his mind, or the Upside Down kind of formed around his thoughts or his feelings or emotions at the time when he was abducted. And I really think this one's going to end up becoming truth to the canon of Stranger Things. This next one, as we can see, it's the Tesla Hydra. I'm putting that in the 50-50. Now, the reason I think this could happen is because when we see Vecna with the kids in the Upside Down, or what we think is the Upside Down, I'm assuming it's beyond the wall. But also, it kind of looks like it could be in, or a lot of people have speculated, I can kind of see this, kind of not. It looks like it could be inside the mouth of, or maybe somewhere inside the Tesla Hydra. Like, when it flashes to it, it looks like it could be teeth or ribs or something. It looks fleshy. I know the Upside Down always looks fleshy, but it's a little different. Tesla Hydra, or maybe like the rib cage or something. It just kind of resembles like something very similar to what that would look like. So that's like the argument for it. I'm going to give it a 50-50 just because I kind of like the idea of it being included, and you have that foreshadowing from Will and from Nancy in season 4. Will drawing this painting here, or painting this painting, and Nancy saying there's horrible creatures coming to devour. That could be the big main creature. But also, just narratively, the way we've seen season 5 kind of roll out, it doesn't make too much sense to kind of throw in a third massive villain type character, villain type being. I feel like it's gonna rely a lot more on like our characters, like Eleven and Will, when it comes to like the Upside Down and, you know, that those final scenes, instead of like throwing in the Tesla Hydra when you already have Demogorgons and you have Vecna and you have the Mind Flayer already, who all three have not truly been dealt with yet. You're going to add a 3-headed dragon to this equation. I'll give it a 50-50 just because it sounds entertaining, but if I'm being honest, it's actually more like this, and I'm going to move it down. Sorry, guys. Next, it's Byler. It's the only ship that people really care about that causes discourse. Now, I think personally it's a 0%, but just because some of the stuff that's leaked in like interviews and everything, I'm going to give it a chance. I don't think they're going to go this way. I really think that's that 4th episode in season 5, the last one we saw, the Sorcerer, is like Will accepting who he is and Robin's speech telling him that he doesn't need Mike to be him. Mike was definitely a part of his personal growth and journey, but he doesn't need him to be the sorcerer he is. And I think if they kind of go back to it at the end, that's a little pointless and like one step forward, two steps back kind of thing narratively. So I'll give it a small chance, but I really think it's not going to happen. This next one is really interesting. I'm going to just throw it where I think it's going to go 50-50 here. This is Will is Vecna. Now, I'm giving this a 50-50 because I think that, like I said, time travel is going to be or some form of time travel or time manipulation is going to be a big part of these last 4 episodes coming up. And this theory is basically saying that Will goes back and somehow becomes Henry Creel, and that cycle continues the way we kind of played it out, or he goes back and he is Henry, stuff like that. And just because of the time travel aspect, I'm giving it a 50-50, and I think it would be an interesting narrative choice. I don't necessarily see this. I see Will more sacrificing himself than, becoming Vecna. Maybe that is the sacrifice, and he ends up dying. But I think it's more likely that he just does end up dying than him becoming Vecna and that being the final sacrifice. But I think it's still a pretty interesting theory nonetheless. I'd like to hear you guys' thoughts on that one in the comments. Because that one's just such a, you throw it out there like, hey, maybe with this time travel stuff, Will goes back and he's like, I have to go back all the way and become, maybe he becomes the Mind Flayer and then becomes, or you know what I mean. So that one's interesting. I have seen a few people say that Will becomes the Mind Flayer, which kind of is similar to this. I would throw that in a 50-50 here as well, where he sacrifices himself to take over the hive mind, dies, but is the hive mind. They go back in time and, he kind of sets the thing in motion so that, everything that happens must happen kind of thing for time travel. Honestly, a little sick of it all, especially after Endgame. But both those theories, this one and Will becoming the Mind Flayer, I'd give that a 50-50. This right here is very similar to what I just talked about. I'm throwing it at 0. This theory is that Will is Vecna's son. I think that's a lot less interesting than what we just talked about, and I really don't see them going that way. So just to quickly kind of breeze past this one, I think it's a 0%. I don't think, none of this relation stuff, I don't think it's going to happen. If it does, I'd be pretty shocked. I'd like to see how they kind of work that out, but I don't see that happening. Next, we have the upside down and kind of the nature of it. This theory kind of talks about, or this theory kind of surmises that the upside down is actually a protective kind of barrier, protective world between the two, and that in season 2 we will kind of see the dissolving and the breaking down of the upside down, Vecna and the Mind Flayer trying to destroy the upside down so that they can kind of easily get into our universe and from the original Dimension X. I think that's more likely than not the case, just because we've kind of already talked about how likely it is that Will, or how likely I think it is that Will kind of creates or models the upside down, and instead of it just being from Dimension X to the upside down, they have to kind of travel between. This is more of a bridge between the two dimensions, which, that is the title of episode 7 in season 2, volume 2. That last episode that's going to release on Christmas is called The Bridge. I think that'd be interesting, especially with the line we get from Dustin saying that the upside down is not anything we ever thought it was. It's completely different from what we believed it to be. I think that the bridge will be the upside down, and that they'll come to find that the upside down isn't this place of horror that they've been pushing for the past 4 seasons. It's actually more of a protective layer between the real bad place, which is Dimension X, where like Henry was sent to when he went to the cave. That's the real bad place. The Upside Down is kind of a buffer zone that allows for, and I think we will kind of come to see that. Now, it might not exactly be that. It might not be the protective layer. It might just be the bridge between the two. So that's why I'm not giving it 100%. I do think it will be the bridge, but I don't think it's going to be like the perfect good place that's like trying to protect our world from Dimension X. I just think it's the bridge. So if we say the theory is the bridge, it's 100% going to be. But if not, it's more likely than not to happen. To make this easier, I'll just say that the Upside Down, we'll say that this theory is the bridge, and I'm going to throw it at 100%. I think these three things we will 100% see in the last 4 episodes. So we will come to find that the spyglass is going to play a big part in Max and Holly's story, and that's how Mr. What's-It is going to find them out, and that's going to be their antagonistic force, the start for that plot line. I think we will find that Will creates or models the Upside Down, and we will figure out that the bridge between our dimensions are that Upside Down. I think that's pretty likely. And then the Vecna. Actually, let's get to this last one. This is the classic, what everyone's been thinking since, I don't know, season 2 or season 3, that this season and this whole series is just a big game of D&D. If we're just saying that, I think there's a chance for that, and I'm going to leave it there. There is a small chance that this is the case, that this was always just going to be the 4 guys, or maybe the 4 guys and Elle and Max potentially playing D&D, like an evolving story based with characters around them, kind of making up the creating a fleshed out world. Now I could see that being the case, but there's a chance, but I think the lore and everyone has been built up so much around this that they won't go that way. I think that's never really been the truth. I think they've always been kind of going for this like more emotional, real life type story. Obviously, it's very supernatural, but they don't want it to be like, oh, this was just a dream, this was just a game. I think they're kind of going for more of a more reality-based story. So that's why that's going to go there. Now, if this theory video was for the last scene in the whole show, I think there's a very good chance, like, very heavily debating between these two, that the last scene in this will probably be the surviving kids. I think all 4 of the main kids will survive. But there's a very good chance that the last scene is them playing D&D for the last time, and that's the last time we see them. I don't think that's what the whole story, the whole overarching 5 seasons of Stranger Things is, just them playing, but I do think that the show will end with them playing with them playing D&D. But that kind of wraps it up. Just a review. Like I said, the spyglass theory I think is happening. I think that Will shapes the Upside Down. I think the Upside Down is that bridge. I think it's more likely than not that we will see one form of Henry Creel become good at some point. I'm assuming it's going to be Henry Creel. I don't think it's going to be Vecna. I think more likely than not, the time travel stuff will erase aspects of Vecna, the Mind Flayer aspect of Vecna, and Henry Creel comes back out. I think it's more likely than not that Shock Jock episode actually is about the past and important details that kind of get us to where we're at regarding Vecna, regarding Hopper, Joyce, and the newbies. I think there's a 50-50 chance that Will end up becoming Vecna. That's just a dartboard theory in my opinion, but it's a fun one nonetheless. And then just a slight chance for them, and like the whole series being D&D, slight chance for the Tesla Hydra happening, slight chance for Byler. Don't really see it happening, but it would be interesting if some of them did. And then 0% chance that Vecna is related to Karen. Like, Karen's not Vecna's sister, and I don't think Vecna is Will's dad. So at this point, I'm going to ask you guys if you could please like and subscribe. That'd be very good. I'd love that. Appreciate it. And that'll be it for today. In the future, I'm going to keep doing some Stranger Things, but probably try to branch out, talk about more stuff that I like. I'm a big soccer guy. I'll probably post some World Cup stuff. Definitely going to be talking about Marvel and the 2026 movie slate. Hopefully get into like some TV show reviews here soon. So big things coming in 2026. And thank you all for watching.